He's a working class hero, Cenk.
No, nonsense. So look, here's the thing. Is he running as a populist? Yes, he ran as a populist. Yes, he talked about bringing jobs back, manufacturing back, etc. But what's he actually going to do? A $4.5 trillion tax cut for the richest people in the world, for corporate executives. The reason why they're doing all these Doge cuts in a panicked, chaotic way is so they can say, oh, no, it's okay. The Doge cuts will cover the $4.5 trillion. Oh, it's okay. The gold card and the tariffs will cover the $4.5 trillion. When that's utter nonsense. You know it's not going to cover the $4.5 trillion. It's a giant giveaway.
In today's video, Cenk Uygur absolutely destroys Piers Morgan in a heated debate on Trump's tariffs. Piers Morgan and his MAGA-packed panel started spinning Trump's new tariffs as some genius America First masterstroke. Cenk went off torching the entire premise of these tariffs and laying out exactly how they're nothing but a massive tax hike on working Americans, all to benefit the billionaire class. While Piers and the panel kept tossing out the usual trade fairness buzzwords, Cenk hit back with actual facts. Prices are going up. US companies are already sounding the alarm. And this isn't about protecting workers, it's about padding the pockets of donors and cronies. So let's dive in and watch how Cenk Uygur shuts down Piers Morgan in this heated debate.
Look, he's a bit of a Trojan horse for corporate rule. So he rolls in as a populist, he opens up the hatch, and then next thing you know, Elon Musk and all the tech bros come out of the horse and go, give us giant tax cuts, give us deregulation, fire everyone at the SEC, fire all the inspector generals. Why? Because we're going to rob the place blind. And then we'll give me a crypto reserve filled with junk. That makes no sense at all. So trillions of dollars in robbery headed in our direction. And who is it going to help? The average American? No, it's going to rob the average American to help corporate executives. So let's be honest about what's happening.
Okay, let's say that's the worst faith interpretation of what's going on. Let me paint the best faith interpretation. It's a three-pronged attack. One, you clear out, and this is what's happening with Doge, you clear out federal waste, you clear out government waste, which they're doing. Musk says he wants to get $2 trillion out. I don't think that's feasible. Maybe he'll get $1 trillion. He says he can get $1 trillion this year.
But hang on a sec.
Hang on a sec.
Because you know he's not going to do $2 trillion.
Hang on a sec. So then the other aspect, the other foot of the stool, the tripod, is tariffs. He's hoping to onshore manufacturing, bring back that to America. And the final piece is reducing income. Now, income tax, excuse me. The reason he wants to reduce income tax might be, as you say, or it might be, but by having all working people have more of their own money, keep more of their own money, they'll be able to spend it on things they want that will encourage the economy.
No, that's always what they say. Supply side economics, my ass. Come on, this is the biggest trick on not only just American people, but people all across the world. That's why they call it the laugher curve, because they laugh their ass off at the average guy who believes it. So the idea is trickle-down economics. We give all of the money to the rich, trillions and trillions and trillions. Later, they trickle all over you, and you'll have to thank them for it. No. So I guarantee you the $4.5 trillion is a robbery. That's robbery number one. I'm worried about robbery number two, which is crypto. So I don't know why we have a crypto reserve. The crypto guys told me that they didn't like the government. They wanted the government stinking hands off their crypto. All of a sudden, Trump said, they're like, no, buy my crypto, make the American taxpayers buy my crypto. No, I don't want your crap. You like your crap, you keep your crap, okay? But I don't need average Joe in Nebraska and Jane in Kansas buying your crypto for you, okay, in a reserve. So this is all a giant robbery.
This debate between Cenk Uygur and Winston Marshall really laid bare the classic MAGA bait and switch, and honestly, Cenk nailed it. Winston tried to dress up Trump's latest round of tariffs and tax cuts as some noble, three-pronged populist master plan, but let's be real. If you look past the branding, it's just more trickle-down economics in a red hat. Cenk broke it down perfectly. Trump rolls in talking like he's a working-class hero, but every policy he's pushing funnels money straight to the top. The $4.5 trillion tax cut, that's not for middle-class Americans, it's for corporate executives and mega donors. And these Liberation Day tariffs, they're not precision moves to rebuild manufacturing. They're blanket taxes that'll raise consumer prices, hurt small businesses, and spark retaliation from our trading partners. And that crypto reserve idea? Wild. It's straight up market manipulation. Crypto was supposed to be this anti-establishment, decentralized thing. Now MAGA wants the government to use taxpayer money to prop it up. That's not economic freedom. That's corporate welfare for bros in Patagonia vests. Plus, let's not forget the track record. Trickle-down never trickles down. It's been tried for 40 years, and all it's done is blow up the deficit and make the wealth gap even worse. If Trump's plan really helped working people, we wouldn't still have towns hollowed out from the last time they tried this.
But the problem is, by the time people find out whether I'm right, you're right, Piers, or you're right, Winston, it's going to be too late. The money's already going to be
you
gone.
You don't dispute that after 3 years of his first term, the US economy was in good shape. You don't dispute that.
No, I don't dispute that. But
So
you don't dispute that Biden's economy was also in good shape.
One of the reasons Trump, I think, reacted so badly to the pandemic was he knew it was crushing the stock market, it was crushing the economy, it was attacking the very things he cares most about, which is money and the economy. He's a money guy. And I think that he felt awful about that. It really affected him. But for the 3 years, as I've said to him, for the 3 years up until that point, actually the US economy was in good shape. And that's why I think a lot of Americans went, you know what, I sort of back Trump on the economy. I may not even like him, but I kind of think he knows what he's doing on the economy. When you say he doesn't know what he's doing, I do dispute that. He's got some incredibly smart guys there around him. Yeah. I see them all the time, but these are smart people.
I get what you're saying. And, look, I'm fair about the facts. So those 3 years were pretty good. So now you could say, hey, Cenk, that proves the case. But it doesn't prove the case.
Well, it might prove he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So what I'm saying is, look, that time there was an establishment that was in the White House, and they frustrated him in a lot of ways. Half the time they were wrong, half the time they were right. But they were the brakes in the car. This is a car without any brakes. So we're now in a Tesla with no brakes at all, almost a driverless car, and it's careening out of control because there's nobody to go, hey, brother, if you do 50% tariffs on Canada, the stock market's going to drop by 1,000 points. Everybody knows that.
But everyone knows this is all negotiation going on, these tariffs, right? He is negotiating from a very strong position. But he's the president of the United States.
But
he's the biggest dog. He's the biggest dog in the race.
But when I say 50 and then you say 25 within the same day once the stock market crashes, you look weak.
Do you?
Yeah, of course you do.
It depends what the other side do.
It makes everybody think, oh, he's bluffing. He's bluffing. We just wait him out.
A lot of the time he is bluffing.
He is often bluffing.
Right.
But the problem is, have you ever played poker? When you're playing against a bluffer,
love
it.
I've met New York real estate tycoons, and guess what? The art of the bluff is a real thing.
It is, but it's an art. If you bluff on every hand, you're going to get called and you're going to lose all your money. Every poker player knows that.
Now, Piers came in full MAGA mode, praising Trump's first-term economy and hyping up his strong negotiation position like he's some master deal maker running the US like a high-stakes poker game. But what Cenk pointed out, and what people really need to hear, is that even if Trump's economy looked good for a bit, it was largely riding the momentum of the Obama recovery. And more importantly, when Trump had actual decision-making power, like with the chaotic tariffs and trade wars, he tanked markets and hurt working Americans. Let's not forget, tariffs are a tax, period. They raise prices for consumers, especially on basics like food, electronics, and cars. Trump's scattershot approach, threatening 50% tariffs one day, walking it back the next, created volatility and uncertainty that spooked investors, damaged global supply chains, and hit small businesses the hardest. Cenk's Tesla with no brakes metaphor is dead on. Trump now surrounds himself with loyalists, not guardrails. Back in his first term, at least there were people around him trying to rein in his worst impulses. Now, it's a free-for-all, and thinking that bluffing your way through global trade policy works in real life is delusional. This isn't poker night at Mar-a-Lago. Countries retaliate, markets react, and real people suffer when the economy crashes over a bluff gone wrong.
He doesn't bluff all the time.
He does nothing but bluffing.
He negotiates all the time.
Yeah, he does. He does. Look, I don't mind the negotiation. And look, we've got a pendulum swinging.
Because I feel with you, Cenk, you've gone on a bit of a journey with Trump. I think you're far less, if I may say so, without offending you, hysterical about Trump than you were before. I do think you've calmed down about it because I think you do understand, as I've known him a long time, always focus on what Trump actually does rather than what he says in any given moment, which may sound preposterous given he's the President of the United States. But look how much he talks, not least to the media. He's already done more talking, freewheeling chats with the media in America in his first 5-6 weeks than Obama and Biden did in their first 6 months, right? This is a guy who just chats away. He says the first thing that comes into his head a lot of the time. It's not presidential by the normal yardstick, but I think a lot of people find it quite refreshing.
So, Piers, the pendulum is swinging. So, Biden and the Democrats did absolutely nothing. And they always brag about how they do nothing. Oh, there's nothing we can do, right? Now, Trump is taking nonstop chaotic action. Nonstop. It's a cyclone of action, right? So the country wants it, but they don't want it as chaotic as he's got.
Well, the country's a bit like the stock markets. They're a bit freaked out by it. They don't quite know what to make of it. Stock markets are a bunch of headless chickens, right? We know this.
Yeah.
Right? Good and bad, right? They can fly up and down on a heartbeat of what they call
But we
confidence.
do know some things, Piers. We know that if you do a 50% tariff on Canada, the stock market's going to
If
plunge.
you genuinely think it's going to still be 50% in 6 months' time.
Yeah, but
I doubt it'll be there in 6 days.
So you're asking the stock market to stop believing what Trump is saying.
I'm asking
He's
the stock
obviously
market,
lying
I'm asking
all
the stock
the time
market to
and bluffing.
basically remember that it's better to focus on longer term with Trump than in the short moment.
One more thing, Piers, but we've now had 50 days. So you're right, I'm much more open-minded, and the left is attacking me for being open-minded. And I said, I'll hear Trump out, I'll hear Musk out. Are they really going to cut the Pentagon? But now the jury is coming in. Now they're saying, no, we're not going to cut the Pentagon. We were lying about that. We're going to add $100 billion to the Pentagon. Are we still doing the $4.5 trillion tax cut to corporate executives? Yes, we are. Are we now starting to arrest people for, criticizing Israel? Yes, we are.
Again, Piers kept spinning Trump's chaos as refreshing, like we're supposed to cheer on a president who bluffs, contradicts himself, and treats policy like a reality show strategy. He argued Trump's unpredictability is just part of his negotiation style, that he says whatever comes into his head, but shouldn't be judged on that. But let's be real, when you're the president of the United States, your words are policy, especially when it comes to something as serious as tariffs. Cenk's not wrong to call this approach dangerous. Trump's Liberation Day tariffs and the threats of 50% hikes have already rattled markets. Investors don't base decisions on vibes, they react to signals. And when those signals are erratic tweets and contradictory policy drops, it sends uncertainty rippling through the economy. Add that to the $4.5 trillion in proposed corporate tax cuts, all while pretending there's some populist movement, and you've got a plan that helps billionaires and leaves working class Americans with higher prices at the register. Cenk also hit on something super important. This idea that Trump's team was supposed to cut Pentagon spending, drain the swamp, and challenge corporate control. Instead, they're adding $100 billion to defense and pushing for crypto reserves while gutting regulations. So much for fighting the establishment. Trump's not draining the swamp, he's flooding it with tech bros and private equity guys. At the end of the day, Cenk's doing what more people should, calling out the bluster and digging into the policy. Piers may enjoy the drama, but this isn't entertainment, it's people's livelihoods. Tariffs aren't poker chips, they're taxes that Americans end up paying. Let's not lose sight of that while the MAGA crew keeps bluffing their way through governance. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.